Went over to a friend of mine's house the other day. He said he was selling off a few items from his collection, so I had to go pick out some items that he had for sale, and I came across this Walthers plastic pellet hopper that came out several years ago. It was actually new in the package, so he gave me a good price on it, and I'm going to add it to my fleet. What I thought I'd do is make a video and show you guys how I weather and put graffiti on a car like this and get it all ready for the layout. Hi friends, my name's Steven and this is my channel Signal Up Productions, where I make videos all about trains. Before we get this car out of the package, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, then click that bell icon so you're notified every time I post a new video. In just a second I'm going to get out the different products that we're going to use to weather and paint this car with graffiti and some of the other changes and modifications that we're going to make to it. If you guys have any questions, be sure to leave those in the comment section down below. Now, a lot of the techniques I'm going to use for this car, I've actually just gleaned from other YouTube channels, people that are way better at doing weathering than I am. So I'm going to leave a link to a couple of different videos that I've been inspired by down in the description. Be sure and check out those videos after you are done watching this one. Now, this car being new in the package, it does have the instruction sheet, and it's got a little bag with the horn hook couplers. That's how old this car is. But the car actually comes with old plastic knuckle couplers and plastic wheels, so it doesn't even come with metal wheels. So of course that didn't surprise me. I figured, you know, being an older car, that is what was to be expected. But I do have some metal wheels that I've already painted. The brown on the face of the wheel, I've already painted that on there, and I've added the resistor and wire glue. I've already done that previously. I've got a whole stash of those ready to go. So when I get a new car, I just throw them on there. What I'm going to have to do is take the trucks off, take the original couplers off, set those aside, and then I'm going to get started with the body.
I started by taking the wheels and couplers off and setting them aside. I did put the truck and coupler screws back into the body so they didn't get lost. For this project I'll use burnt umber and burnt sienna oil paint, as well as some rail and roof brown, some burnt umber, mud, and UP Harbor Mist Gray acrylic paint. Some of it will get airbrushed on, the rest of it will get added with a paintbrush. I also have a few different sizes of masking tape and a mixing cup. I used the 5mm wide masking tape to cover the weld seams on the car body. Some of the prototype photos I found on the internet had rust patches that seemed to avoid these areas. I ripped off a chunk of makeup sponge and squeezed out a little acrylic rust paint. Squeezing the sponge, I dipped it into the paint and then dabbed off most of it on a paper towel. This way I could apply just a very small amount of paint and build it up in thin layers. For color variation between the old and the new rust, I added a second layer of burnt umber on top of the rust. Depending upon the age you're going for, one layer of rust could be enough. With that dry, I removed the strips of tape, then added more masking tape where I wanted my patch to go. Cover any exposed car body parts that you don't want the patch color to overspray on. Over at the paint booth, I sprayed a few coats of UP Harbor Mist Gray. The specific color of gray isn't important. Any gray would probably work. Once that's dry, I'll remove that tape and start thinking about the graffiti. I found this photo in my collection that has a piece of graffiti on the side I think would be easy to replicate. I wanted to get the scale as close as possible, so I zoomed out of the picture on my computer screen, then held a sheet of copy paper up to the screen and traced the basic outline with a pencil. Then I cut out the trace with a sharp hobby knife, putting a strip of masking tape then on my glass board and transferred the outline from the paper to the tape. Then I cut out the masking tape and placed it on the car. To seal the edge of the tape and avoid any paint bleeding under it, I gave the area a light coat of dull coat. Once that was dry, I used the airbrush to spray a light coat of whatever red paint I had handy. While that was drying, I used the acrylic burnt umber paint and brush painted the truck side frames and couplers. Returning to the car, I peeled off the tape, then removed the roof walkway. For the heavy roof rust that normally forms under the walkway, I dabbed the acrylic burnt umber and rust, using a stiff jabbing motion to avoid brush strokes. I used a fine tip paint marker then to color the black outline around the graffiti, using my photo as a reference. Back at the paint booth, I used the airbrush to lightly apply some roof brown along the top of the car, and then some rail brown on the underside. Finally, a little mud color along the side sill to represent some of that kick-up that's often seen on the prototype. This is the first time I've ever tried using oil paint, so I got some paint thinner in a mixing cup and squeezed out a little burnt umber and burnt sienna artist oil paint onto my tray. I've been watching other YouTube channels that use this technique, but I've never tried it myself because it does take longer to dry. I'll leave a link to those other videos that I've been watching in the description down below. I started out by wetting the brush with thinner, then pulling some of that paint out and dabbing it on the side of the car. I probably should have tried doing this on a junk car first, but where's the fun in that? I alternated between applying the umber and the sienna color, trying out different thicknesses of paint. Ultimately, I found that if I applied full-strength paint with one brush, then dipped the second brush into the thinner and wiped off some of the excess, then pulled the brush straight down the side of the car, I could get these really nice translucent rust streaks. I would paint on a variety of lines and dots, then streak them down. If I wasn't happy with how it looked, I could wipe it off and try again. That is one of the big advantages to weathering with oils. I let the car sit for a few days, basically until the paint was dry to the touch. Then I gave the whole car a coat of gloss coat. I decided I wanted to add some graffiti decals to the opposite side, so I cut those out and applied them following normal decal methods. Lastly, I gave the whole car a coat of dull coat to tone everything down. The last step was to add the smoke box graphic safety stripes, then put a little Katie coupler grease in the pockets and reinstall the couplers and trucks. I was really pleased with how my first attempt at using oil paint turned out, and I'm looking forward to trying it on my next weathering project. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, then leave me a comment down below. Thanks for watching.